Welcome to National Discourse.
Current affairs.
We must not extricate anybody from corruption. If any one of them is found wanting, the due course and the law must take its course.
Nation building.
Administration is slightly different from the last one in the fight against corruption.
We need to really task our leaders, who are the religious leaders, from the emir, from the bishops, from whoever they can.
Some of our village markets, there are people, they call them in Hausa yang nakama. They are like agberu in the markets.
Whatever anything is not useful to you is not important to you.
Politics.
What happened in Benue might be political. It still has an undertone, not political, dated way back. If you follow history.
It's interactive.
Not part of Nigeria. Okay. And it will not be good for us.
When they gather their people, they tell them, these Hausa people are your enemies. When the Hausas gather together, they tell them, these Igbo people are your enemies. When the Yoruba people gather together, they say the same thing.
Who are we? We are just from the background. And today we are here in TSTV. And that is why we must propagate our own.
National Discourse. Weekdays on NCTV.
Good morning, Nigerians, and welcome to National Discourse. Now, there is something very sensitive going on right now. Now, not too young to run bill. The first was read in the House of Reps in 2017, I think 26 July or thereabouts. Then coming back to 21st of May, we saw 55 led youth organizations giving our president an ultimatum to sign the bill into law. Now, when our president was giving his democracy address, he mentioned the fact that he is going to sign that. And then 2 days later, on the 31st of May, we saw the president signing into law not too young to run bill. Now, that bill is what we are discussing today. Is it to the merits of the youth, or is there any political undertone to the signage of that bill into law? We are going to look at all that. And of course, I still remain your host, Uche Uduma. I have someone in the house with me today, who will deal with this topic decisively. But we'll go for a short break, and when we come back, we'll move straight into what we have at hand today. Please stay with us.
Welcome to National Discourse.
Current affairs.
We must not extricate anybody from corruption. If any one of them is found wanting, the due course and the law must take its course.
Nation building.
Administration is slightly different from the last one in the fight against corruption.
We need to really task our leaders, who are the religious leaders, from the emir, from the bishops, from whoever they can.
Some of our village markets, there are people, they call them in Hausa yang nakama. They are like agberu in the markets.
Whatever anything is not useful to you is not important to you.
Politics.
What happened in Benue might be political. It still has an undertone, not political, dated way back. If you follow history.
It's interactive.
Not part of Nigeria.
Okay.
And it will not be good for us.
When they gather their people, they tell them, these Hausa people are your enemies. When the Hausas gather together, they tell them, these Igbo people are your enemies. When the Yoruba people gather together, they say the same thing.
Who are we? We are just from the background. And today we are here in TSTV. And that is why we must propagate our own.
National Discourse. Weekdays on NCTV.
You will come back from that short break, and like I told you before, for that break, I have someone in the studio with me who will do justice to not too young to run bill that have been passed into law, or rather we can say not too young to run law. I think it's a law now.
Yes, it's
good morning, sir. You're welcome.
Thank you very much.
Good. Could you please introduce yourself to the viewers?
Okay, my name is Nze Ugakbe Onwuka, Oyofoyi the second. I am firstly a broadcaster and a media person, and also a politician.
Good. Now, we know that he has all locals to stand or to see in the studio to talk to us about not too young to run law. Now, going back to it, sir. Now, we saw the president signing this into law after so many controversies have trailed this bill, and the question have always been, what does these young people want? What are they looking for in this country? That, and then the young people are dissatisfied with the fact that we have the old people, if I may use that word, running the affairs of the country. Now, what happens to the competence of the young ones? Now, let us look at that bill itself. What do you think about it?
Well, for the bill, generally speaking, it's wonderful. Now, what they changed is the section 65, 131, 177. Now, when you say not too young to run, I don't want to concern myself much with the semantics of the bill. But the truth of the matter is, you've reduced the age for running for these offices. What else do you do? I contested for the Anambra governorship. I didn't need the bill. I was already of age to do that. I know some people like Ojo Zokalo who contested when he was in his early 30s. He didn't need the bill to run. So for me, I see it as a distraction to the youth, because we are shouting more on the bill and leaving the nitty-gritty of what we need to do as youth politicians.
Please hold on there. Can you give us an insight into what this bill entails? Because it's not everybody that have access, to know what this bill is all about.
Basically, they've dropped the age for the presidency from 40 to 30. Now, they are supposed to have dropped that of the Senate and the governorship from 35 to 30, but those two still remain the way it is. State assemblies and House of Rep has also been dropped to 25 from 30. Now, what it does is that you give room for the younger people to be able to step into the political terrain and make their own marks.
Now, was it intentional that that of the Senate was left?
Yes, Ekweremadu, the Deputy Senate President, defended it in his own way. He gave instances of where the president is no more there due to sickness or indisposition to continue in office. Then the vice takes over, and then where the vice is not available, the Senate President takes over for a period of not more than 3 months. And then looking at the age of the Senate President, taking over at such a point, being up to the required age of maturity, that is why he said that it needs to be at the place where it is without moving. That is his own defense for the Senate.
Are we saying that someone of 30 years and above won't be able to rule the country? Now, if that had been signed as regards to the presidential candidate, now, and it happens that peradventure the president is not around, the vice president is not around, and the Senate president steps in, what difference does it make?
No, because I think the projection he's looking at is that if peradventure the person who becomes the Senate president doesn't hit that age, then there will be a vacuum. There will be a vacuum, because you can't determine who will be there at what point and at what age. That is his own defense. But in all these things, these ones, as far as I'm concerned, are distractions. The major thing the youth should be looking at with this bill is, how do we take advantage of it? What do we need to do now to make sure that at 25, if you're going for House of Rep or State Assembly, you'll be empowered to even start. If you're going for governorship or for presidency or whatever you want to go for, how do you start making your moves? Now you've put it into law that you can be young and do what you want to do, contest for any position you want. Where is the empowerment for these people?
Empowerment.
Do we have an enabling environment for them?
Okay.
Now, mark you, I'll use the word, the old brigades. Those who are there now, who are over 60, 70, who are running the show now in the country. Do you think they will sit back and fold their arms and wait for you to take over?
Now, do you think the signage of this bill into law is just a waste of time?
Well, I won't call it a waste of time, because people spent valuable time putting that thing together and also taking time to analyze it and come up with that. So I won't call it a waste of time. But I will say that the youth are shouting hooray at the wrong point. Because signing it into law doesn't give you the leeway to just go ahead and win elections. So for me, what I'm canvassing for is not too young to lead. It is not about running. It is about winning. Now, do we have the power to win as youths? How many of the youths can muster the
when you talk about power, what exactly do you mean?
I'm talking about
I know in
finance.
Election, okay, fine.
Financing the election. Now, if, for instance, if you want to contest for the governorship, it gets to a point where INEC will organize a workshop and tell you that you don't spend more than 200 million naira to contest for governorship.
Okay.
The last time we had that workshop in Oka, when I contested for governorship in Anambra under Democratic Alternative, I asked them a question. When we make these laws, do we actually look at the facts and the details on ground? 200 million to run for governorship. How much will it cost you to print posters? How much are the billboards? What of the media placements, TV, radio? It's taking over the 200 million already. Now, we need to start looking at money in politics. You see, when we make some of these laws, we need to balance it out with some other things on the other side. Not too young to run. And the young man who is having that intention and ambition to run doesn't have the finance to run.
So you are thinking that probably on the aspect of the money or the finance for picking a ticket should have been dropped.
That is one of them.
Okay.
That is where it starts. Now, when you pick the ticket, they've made it so expensive to contest for elections in this country that I think we should start putting our houses in order and looking at that aspect. Moreover, what I would have projected for was for not too, in fact, too old to run. Too old to run. Because if retirement age is pegged at 60, 65, and 35 years of working period, you retire. Why would we have people at 70 coming to tell us that there's no roof to who can run? We need to have a roof. You see, the people who are doing these things are making sure that we get distracted as youths. The youth should start demanding that there's an age you get to. You forget about politics. If you retired in your office at 65, that means you've hit the roof of performance. You're going down. And then you retire from office where you've been told you're tired, and then you come back to politics. And you want to hold office and start running things again for people. It doesn't work.
Okay, now from your statement, I'm trying to call out something. For the people that have ruled us that are above 60 years, are you saying their age has always affected their performance?
Well, let me give you a clear instance for that. Currently, we have a president who is over 70. Are we having the best of time as a nation?
Are you attributing that to his age?
He himself said it. That age is slowing him down. He said it. It's out there. He said it. Age is actually slowing me down. What he would have done when he was 40, he can't do it at this age now. Now, there are certain things that you need to take note of. When people start getting old, their brain power starts declining. It's natural. That is natural for everybody. Now, this is a situation where we are in a country that needs help and needs creative help at this time. We need young people that can start thinking and thinking fast and taking decisions at a very fast rate. But we have people who are there and other people have to take decisions for them, and they just put their signatures on it without even reading sometimes.
All right, I would want us to go down the memory lane a bit. 1999, of course, we just celebrated the Democracy Day, and we had 19 years of uninterrupted democracy in Nigeria, of course, one of its kind. No military interruption, nothing. We just been moving slow and steady no matter how it comes. Now, Olusegun Obasanjo was the one that started this democratic dispensation. Now, I know his age, if I'm not very sure, but I know he's above the age that you're talking about.
Yes.
I mean, age, we're trying to peg this on. Now, look at him very well, and look at Goodluck Jonathan administration, and look at the present administration. Would you say that age, what's the difference that you want to pick within these three administrations as regards to age?
Everybody knows, unless you want to deceive yourself, that comparing Goodluck, Buhari and Jonathan was far ahead of them.
Okay, and that's because of age?
Because of age, one. Secondly, is because of personal attributes, which has nothing to do with age.
Age.
You understand? Now, at the time he said, I give up, one of the reasons I would want to allude to that is because he knows that he still has some time ahead of him to work on some other things. Now, when they get to a certain age and they find out that the doors are shutting down, the gates are closing in on them, they become desperate. They become very, very desperate. Even when it is obvious, for instance, in this case that we are in now, the man has been in and out of hospital for God knows how long, at the detriment of the nation. And nobody wants to advise him, and he doesn't even want to advise himself, to go home and take care of himself and be with his grandchildren and be a grandfather, a good grandfather. The stress of leading Nigeria is high. We should know that. Even the stress of leading a family is high enough, not to talk of Nigeria as a nation. See the level of killings that are going on and all these things. A younger person, to me, would have taken on these problems head on and dealt with it more decisively. Age is a major problem that we are battling in Nigeria. And right now, 2019 is coming. The youth, I've always heard, are the future of tomorrow. I wonder when the tomorrow will be. Because most of the people running the show today have been there since the 60s. Some of us were not born at that point when they took control of this country, and they are still in the seat. So when they put out this not too young to run bill and people are screaming and shouting and hailing, I look at them and I start to wonder, what have we achieved by just signing a simple document? We have achieved nothing. Wait for 2019 and see how many of the young people can be able to buy their forms. Wait, 2019 is just around the corner. All the young people screaming off their heads, it has been signed, hooray, Eureka, it has been signed. Let us see how many of them can buy forms to run. I know what I went through in Anambra State, running for the governorship in Anambra State. 37 candidates. Good, most of us decided that we were going to do it no matter the odds we faced. Now, but we didn't need any legislation to do that. So for me, I am calling on the youth to forget the bill and start doing what they are supposed to do. Put yourselves together. Agree that we need to end the reign of these people who have decided not to retire themselves.
Now, are you saying there should be another bill coming up?
We need it.
Not too old, too old enough to
yes, too old to run.
And who will sign that?
They need to sign it because they are toying with the future of their children and their generations to come.
Now, most times, most excuses we get from, I wouldn't want to say the old, our fathers that are still in politics, I beg to use that word, is that a young person does not necessarily have what it takes. It does not have, let me still use what it takes to run an office very well because of age. Now, for instance, we have governors that are really in Nigeria right now, currently, in some states, and probably they are very young. I know the youngest of all them is Kogi State Governor Yahaya Bello. Now, take a look at that young man and his administration. What do you pick out there?
Well, what we are trying to do here is singling out one person.
That's exactly what these people are doing.
No. Now the question is, Yahaya Bello, we don't know whatever transpired behind the scenes before he even sat down there as the governor. You understand? So most times these so-called young people who are in the driver's seat, the actual hands turning the wheels are the old hands. So sometimes there are fronts. And that is why I am saying it is not about the not too young to run bill. It is about the youth waking up and doing what they are supposed to do. Okay. Now, if you know what they say, that he who pays the piper dictates the tune. So if you're 25 years old and somebody who is 90 gives you the money to run,
Godfatherism starts in.
That's it.
Okay.
You only do the things the man wants you to do. If you don't do that, he'll create problems for you in your state, or your local government, or wherever. So the problem is not with the bill. It is with the attitude of the youth. We need to bring ourselves together, galvanize and form a solid front and confront these people. Nobody gives you power. And when they think that paper document gives them power, that is elusive. You need to plan towards taking over power. Nobody will bring it and put it on a platter and serve it to you.
And when you keep talking about planning coming from the young people, what exactly do you expect from them? Because you know Nigerian politics is not a playground.
Yes.
You've talked about finance, and then we want to talk about again for you to come out to contest, you must be influential in the society. You must be known. Now, how do we expect? I was going through Instagram. I saw you, Leduce, coming out for office of the president or whatever next year. Now, I smiled at it, not because I don't believe in it, but looking at the kind of politics we run in Nigeria, do you think that can go through, even with the passage into law of not too young to run? But look at the kind of politics we have. Look at the political setup we have, being surrounded by our fathers who are still there. Do you think there is a leeway to this, even if there is a touch on the financial part, as you've been saying, like cut down the amount of money used for picking tickets? Even if that is achieved, do you think it's possible?
I believe it is possible. I'm a revolutionary and a solutionary at the same time. When you bring up problems and you keep screaming about the problems, it doesn't go away.
So where do we start from as youth?
If anybody wants to run, the first thing he needs to start doing is start talking to the right and relevant youth segments of the community. If we want to run for the office of the president, and we have the majority of voters as youth, communicate with them. But this is where it is two-way now. Those you're communicating with, would they have the understanding at this time? That is why we need a little bit of time for sensitization and awareness. 2019 is just around the corner. So most of the things that will happen in 2019, you can't be certain with what will go wrong or what will go right. But if we give this thing 2, 3, 4 years, we can start planning. We can ease out the old brigades with strategic planning. It is not about screaming off our heads and printing posters and doing billboards. Now, if you want your name to be on the bill, it is fine and okay. But if you want to win, target the relevant voters, and they are the youth. Now, we come back to the other side of it. Inducement. Hunger is in the land. And this hunger business is what they are using to hold down the youth.
Please hold on there. We'll go for a short break, and when we come back, we continue with how poverty is an impediment to not young to run. Too young to run bill. Please stay with us.
Welcome to National Discourse.
Current affairs.
We must not extricate anybody from corruption. If any one of them is found wanting, the due course and the law must take its course.
Nation building.
Administration is slightly different from the last one in the fight against corruption.
We need to really task our leaders, who are the religious leaders, from the emir, from the bishops, from whoever they can.
Some of our village markets, there are people, they call them in Hausa yang nakama. They are like agberu in the markets.
Whatever anything is not useful to you is not important to you.
Politics.
What happened in Benue might be political. It still has an undertone, not political, dated way back. If you follow history,
It's interactive.
Not part of Nigeria. Okay. And it will not be good for us.
When they gather their people, they tell them, these Hausa people are your enemies. When Hausas gather together, they tell them, these Igbo people are your enemies. When the Yoruba people gather together, they say the same thing.
Who are we? We are just from the background. And today we are here in TSTV. And that is why we must propagate our own.
National Discourse, weekdays on NCTV.
Oh yeah, welcome back from that short break, and of course we are still in the studio talking about the not too young to run bill that have been passed into law by the president. I mean, what does that mean? Are we still looking at this from the fact that it's been passed so every youth have the opportunity to go out there and contest for next year? Or are there still some things behind the scene that we need to know about it? I still have my guest in the studio talking about it. Now, before we went for that break, sir, I was talking about poverty. We know that our political setup, like I said, is not a playground in Nigeria. I still repeat my word. The kind of politics we do in Nigeria is the politics that requires huge money, and I talked about influence. Now, a young man of 25 years, 30 years or 35 years, we are still going back to education. How is a problem to us, achieving this bill? Now, looking at that or against that background, now a young man of that age, how would that person be able to not only pick the ticket, but dropping some things for Nigerians? Because most Nigerians will have to sell our conscience or consciences before we vote because of hunger. So back again, how is poverty an impediment to this bill that have been passed into law?
Okay, thank you very much. You see, when you start talking about inducement and bribery during elections, it still takes us back to legislations. I remember vividly when we were in the workshop in Oka for the governorship election with INEC. The number of years an accountant working with a candidate gets for helping the candidate run monies over the stipulated amount is about 9 years. Now, the candidate himself doesn't get up to that.
Are you talking about 9 years of experience?
9 years imprisonment.
In prison.
And then the candidate who made that accountant do that gets a lower number of years.
Okay.
As punishment, according to the law. And I asked them, does this make any business sense? That is one. Secondly, when we talk about giving bribes during election, in the Anambra election, I am still alive and I'll be ready and willing to stand before anybody to defend it. In the polling station near my house, less than 100 meters from my house, people were giving money for people to vote for certain parties. The police was sitting there, the INEC officials were sitting there. So if you look at the Anambra elections, now there's a lot of legal cases on now against that win by Obiano. And then you start asking yourself, legislation is there that when there's any kind of infringement on the law, whether it is INEC or police, somebody needs to get punished. Nobody is looking at that. So who has ever been punished?
Was that taken to the court? Because the court does not wake up and prosecute in isolation. There must be something brought to its face.
The cases are in court now as we speak. Now, but the question is, from since 99 till now, have you heard of any case that went and somebody was actually taken to court and jailed?
Because of electoral misconduct.
Yes, and you have these things, we are in the media. We have footages of these things happening. Now, when you have underaged people voting, what transpired? It is money exchanging hands somewhere and somebody closing his eyes for it to happen. Now, the young man who wants to run, like myself and others, who doesn't have the big war chest, because it has become the norm, sits beside by the side of the table and he's watching, and people are sharing whatever they want to share. The major problem we have is that They want to leave the public and the masses impoverished so that they can have their way. So until we make these people comfortable financially, give them financial emancipation, then political emancipation can start working.
You're talking about the young people now, right?
Yes, because they are the bulk of the voters. And you come to the polling center and give the person 3,000. This is a person that hasn't even gotten 1,000 naira in the past 2 months.
That's what I call selling of conscience.
Selling of conscience. And why would they sell their conscience? They've been pressed down to the point that they no more have any conscience. Poverty is nobody's brother. Hunger is a wicked person. Now they know that once these people are hungry, they will do anything to survive. So that is why for me, they're not too young to run bill. Awesome. But that is not what the youth should concentrate on at this time. What we should be looking at now is how do we stop these kind of anomalies cropping up each and every time we have elections in Nigeria. The young people will be the thugs that will be used. The young people will be the ones that will be sent to carry the ballot boxes if need be. The young people are the ones who will be bribed to sell away their conscience for peanuts, 1,000 naira, 500 naira, 2,000 naira. These same young people are the ones now who are screaming, hooray, our age has been dropped so we can contest. Contest how? How? You see, the people who are passing these laws for you are those who know that they have no business still being in the corridors of power. So you think they will give you a red carpet to run through and get to where you're going to? No, it won't happen. The youth need to start now, wake up, raise their voices and call for the right things to be done and start galvanizing themselves together. From the north to the west to the east to the south, everywhere. Let the youth come together now and start looking at ways and means. It is not about not too young to run. It is not too young to lead.
That sounds like a very big work. Now, Nigeria is a very big country.
Yes.
Now, if you would want to achieve that, like I said, it has taken time for our fathers, I still use that word, to remain where they are. And everything circulates amongst them. Now, next year's election, we are seeing Atiku, putting his head there. We are seeing our president coming back again. And we are seeing other people putting their head. And by the time you check their age, they are above the 60 years you're talking about. Now, this has taken 19 years, to stay there. The youth have been used for over 19 years for achievement, for them to achieve. And the truth is, when you look at it very well, our fathers cannot do without the youth. But they are used as a tool to getting where they are. Now, you're talking about changing this mentality. How many years do you think that will take us? And when do you think this not too young to run law will actually become effective practically?
You see, when we start doing postulations like this, it's very difficult. Like you rightly put it, 19 years of our current democratic dispensation has been run by the elderly politicians, those who have retired in actual service, in the service, and now they are coming back to politics to start afresh. It is not going to be an easy task, but it is a job that must be done. And for us to be able to do it, we need to put aside so many things. We need to start first thinking as a collective body of youths and not reasoning from the ethnic and tribal lines.
Sure.
That's the first thing we need to start dealing with. To confront these people, we need to understand that we are already their guns, and we are the bullet they load in the guns, and we are the gunpowder in it. Let us dampen their gunpowder. And how do we do that? By bringing out people we feel can run these things. Push them forward. If we have 30 million young people giving their candidates 1 naira, that is 30 million naira. You see, but would they allow you to have that cohesion to do this? No.
Okay, now
they will give you problems. They will plant people amongst you to make you lose focus. But the most important thing as we go into this thing is for us to know that already, don't forget, our president Buhari has already told us, the youth, that we should forget 2019 while signing the bill. Yeah. That's the first shot fired. While signing the bill, he's telling you that forget 2019. Oh, it is not for you, the youth, for now. Allow me finish my thing, and then you can decide on coming. It is his fundamental human right to do, but it is wrong. You can say what you want to say, but it is wrong. That is not where you're signing a bill that is supposedly to empower the youth to come into governance, and you're telling them to have a backseat first until you finish what you're doing in 2019. These are the issues that we will contend with. Starting from that day the bill was signed, we got the first shot fired. So we need to galvanize ourselves. Already I'm talking to some people because we need to start changing this tune. The tune shouldn't be not too young to run. Running is just going there to run.
Contesting.
Contest. Not too young to contest. We should be looking at not too young to lead. We should be looking at the end result of success and not just an attempt at governance.
All right. As blessed as we are as a country, we know that most times we would say that Nigeria have been divided along some lines. Now, religion plays a very important role in this division, in as much as it's negative, but that is where we found ourselves. Now, we are battling religious issues in Nigeria. How easy would it be for this not too young to lead, according to you, work over? If peradventure a youth is being picked from probably a Muslim, and of course we are talking about the two major religious divides, right? Now, do you think the Christians, for example, would stand up as youth, like you're talking about galvanizing everything and making it stand as one, talking about youth speaking with one voice? Do you think it would work, looking at the religious divide we have present in Nigeria?
That's why I said it's serious work, because hunger has no religion. Hunger, when it comes, doesn't recognize whether a Christian, Muslim, Buddhist, traditionalist, or whatever. Now, the problem we have is that we lost track of history. Before these two major religions came here, Africa was a big community, living together, doing their things. We need to start having a rethink of where we are coming from. Who were we before this time? If my brother, who is supposed to be a Muslim, is there and things are working, people are regaining their jobs they've lost in the last 3 years, people are getting to have prices of gari and rice drop in the market, does that have any problem with anybody? No. Now, the same problem we see as religious problems have strong political undertones. They will keep engineering the Christian youth who are gluttons to take peanuts and throw stones across the other side. Now they will go back to the other side and give money to the glutton Muslim to throw stones at the other side, and then they will be in the middle enjoying our commonwealth. It is time we wake up. Whether you're Christian, you're Muslim, you're a traditionalist, know that these people have one aim. When you go to where they sit down to discuss how to share our commonwealth, none of them remembers their religion on that table. So why should we as youths be used to march on the streets and fight each other? You see, that's why I said the problem and the bulk of the work is not on the government side. They will not allow you to prosper as youths. It is our job as youths to make sure that we are no more used the way we've been used all these years. When the man comes to you and tells you, you see, that young man is a Christian, and you know when he goes in, he's not going to favor us as Muslims, tell him sorry. The price of gari in the market doesn't discriminate. If they come to you, the Christian youth, and tell you the same thing, please tell them that oil that we used to cook in the house doesn't know who is a Muslim or a Christian. until we know that the youth have the power. See, it's not about going to look for the power anywhere. We have the power. But it is realizing that we have the power. We still don't realize we have the power. When the youth start saying no to certain things, you see, money and manipulation of individuals with some seemingly juicy positions in governance. You know, I'll give you SA, I'll give you PA, I'll give you protocol officer, I'll give you this. How does that affect your children and your children's children? They'll give you the appointment. Every day you have to answer to somebody that doesn't even weigh up to your mental capacity. Just because he has more money than you do. That should start ending from now. Let us use this not too young to run bill to wake up our psyche and start behaving the way we are supposed to behave. 2019 is just around the corner. Trust me, if we don't start applying our common sense to politics in Nigeria, it will still be business as usual. Now, I don't want to be an advocate of or a prophet of doom. But you see what I've learned in this country. Now that they've passed this bill, schemings are going on. They will look out for some young men and women, pull them together and tell you they want to help empower the youth. And they will empower these few youths to make sure that the rest are defocused. They will create some directorates and make people DGs and executive director here and there, and they will tell you we are giving the youth a pedestal, a platform to project themselves. But is that what we want? No. What we want is a situation where the youth in every community, in every ward, in every local government, in all the states, we know that they have the power to put that person there or to remove the person. And when 2019 comes, let people march to that place. You are hungry, yes, but you are not dead. So why don't you go hungry for a little bit longer and take the right decisions, do the right things that will pay you tomorrow. The situation of eat today and die tomorrow, that's what the youth have been encouraged to be doing. So some of us are coming out now to say, we will not wait for people to direct our future. We will direct our future ourselves.
Now, for the youth that have been used as a thug for a very long time, you know, most of these people, they get to make their money during an election in a year. So just wait, you know. Now, for such a person that have had this plan since 4 years ago, now next year is election. It's as if I'm getting to my promised land. He's already preparing to be that thug. Thuggery is what he does, you know, to earn his living. What alternative can the youth give to such person to retract from that activity?
You see, that brings us to the failure of governance from the state levels down. Now, these people come from homes. They come from villages, communities, and they come from a state. You see, sometimes we hit the wrong targets. When you start screaming at the president at the top, what is your governor doing down there to help the youth in his state? That is why I'm saying this is a movement that we are working on now. It is no more too young to run, but too young to lead. The man or the young man who has been used severally as a thug, political thug, it's not as if that is the only vocation he can engage himself in. No. If there's an alternative to that.
Exactly what I'm asking. What alternative does that thug have?
The government, as we run government today, there are certain incentives that should be going towards rehabilitating certain people, helping the communities, the youth segment, the women and children. Where do these monies go at the end of the day? Now, if the monies should be going where they are supposed to go, we won't have some of these people as thugs. Now, when you even have them, because some people will still be recalcitrant anyway, when you have them in a minimal quantity, and then you can start dealing with them. We have NGOs and we have all these groups that will be detailed to do this thing. That is what we are planning to do now. We are going to start a very massive sensitization project that will go all out to make sure that we change the psyche of the youth before 2019.
Sorry, please, I think we have a call.
Okay.
Hello? Good morning to you. Please, your name and where you're calling from, please. Okay, sir. Your name is what? Okay.
Our constitution is our problem. This is a constitution manifested by just how many people? Manifested by the first military leaders. Stand down to favor themselves, to favor some party system. So even the young men are there, they will see faith. And people will shift the blame to them. Yes, they say what's wrong, but I look at this person because what the most people are saying is what the young people will be facing because that is faulty. And what they need to do first, when they put the president to strengthen his name there, let them see the president. Work hard for wisdom, work hard to amend this constitution. Let it be free. So that when the problem that meant up, they can be grateful. You know, without all these things, whether too young, too old, too small, we are still going to face the same situation.
All right. So you think the constitution should be amended? All right, thank you very much for that contribution there. Now, he's coming from a different angle. He's not supporting it must be the youth. He's not saying it must be the old, it must be the small, bro. He thinks there's a lacuna in the constitution.
Yeah, the governance process. You see, the restructuring thing is at the base of everything we are talking about now. But for me, like I told you, I'm a solutionary.
All right. Sorry, could you just take this calls together? Yeah, good morning to you. Sorry? Edo, okay, Pastor Ezekiel, please could you go ahead?
Yeah, you just mentioned concerning the constitution of this thing. Not too young to run. And you mentioned between the two religions. There is nothing concerning religion and the youth. If you even watch what is happening in the country, even the Christians don't love their faith. There is no unity among the Christians. That's why if you watch today the president is doing his own best. There is nothing that this country, if all of us can unite and pray and let God answer us. You know, I listen in this program that time. I'm not in that position or I'm in that position or pastor, it cannot be changed anything. Because there is no unity among everybody. If there is unity, and focus on the unity in this country. And not
Your line is breaking there. We find it difficult to actually hear what you're saying, sir.
Okay. What I'm saying that among everybody. Not too young to run. It's good. It's a good thing. But are we just ready to?
Oh, we lost it, but of course we got the point he's trying to raise. Not too young is not the problem, but the problem is that we are not united. And it's still going back to what I'm saying, which I think part of religion is part of it. Now, if we can remove religious sentiments, it means we are not united. And the ethnicity still falls back to it. So how, like, I think I asked that question earlier on.
Yes.
Are the youth united enough to, push this through?
Currently, the truth is bitter, but it has to be told. We are not. We are still balkanized. But there's hope if we start working from today. Now, like the first caller mentioned, issues of governance still boils down to the constitutional amendments. if we all start singing the restructuring song, now when you talk about restructuring, it's a wide thing.
I think this government has brought up restructuring.
Yes.
Is it the restructuring?
That's what he was talking about.
Okay.
You know, that if we restructure, you understand, that whatever we do can start making sense. It is good. Now, but before we restructure, what do we do? Do we sit down and wait until we restructure?
There must be some moves.
Something must be done. And that is why, for me, what we need to start doing before the restructuring comes is to make sure that we galvanize the youth. Let them understand that the success or failure of whatever we do, whether the restructuring or not, is still based on we, the youth. So, while we are waiting and pushing for the restructuring to happen, we need to make the youth understand that this is the direction we are supposed to be going. Yes, religion divides us, but the people who plant the seeds of discourse with the fertile soil of religion are still those who are telling us, you are not too young to run, you can run. And they plant these things around you and create problems amongst us. So we should forget about whatever we do religiously. It still boils down to politics.
All right, sorry we will not be able to take more calls. Our time is fast spent. We are really appreciative for coming. Now, I think we've been able to, do justice to this topic. If not 100%, at least we've tried. I know time was never, and is never still on our own side. Now, the not too young to run bill. If you're a youth, like he said, don't just get comfortable because a certain bill has been passed. Now, looking at this, the effectiveness of the bill lies in the practical part of it. Now, for us to see a youth actually in position of authority, not just for you to go out there and contest, in as much as, like he said, we really don't have a comfortable environment to do that. But if you're a youth, your orientation needs to start changing now. Like he said, it's not about sitting down to shout, it's been passed. What is the effect this bill or this law is going to have on us as youth coming next year? That is all our question is this morning. We are waiting for next year, but we need to stand up. We need to start changing our mentality. We need to start, we just need to stop making ourselves tools for these people to use as political thugs. Now, political thuggery is even a crime to start with. Now, as a youth, your contribution is not to sit down and shout, it's been passed. There is a huge role you have to play as a youth for us to make this country a better place. For me, it's a sign off from National Discourse. See you same time tomorrow. You can give us your contribution, your question on social media handle that'll be rolling on the screen. For tomorrow, we'll have another important thing to talk to you about. Thank you very much. So thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you very, very much for coming.